I would think they would try to at least have, two guys watching Justin Jefferson, whether it's, a cornerback, Darius Slade traveling with him, and then maybe a safety, keeping an eye on him as well. Um, I don't think they want, I mean, I think they want to see if the other guys can beat him. I mean, I think I get the feeling their strategy is going to be like, let's try to take Justin Jefferson away and let's, make somebody else beat you.
There he is, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Frank from Delaware Online. How you been, Martin?
Hey, all right, Jeff. Good morning to everybody. How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. I see you spiced up a bit. You had some class today. No t-shirt.
Yeah, gotta dress up for the big show.
So, what's your take on this whole Cowboys drama, or I don't even know if we want to call it drama at this point because they're just an absolute mess right now.
Yeah, I was watching the Sunday night game and everything, and everyone talks about what a big loss Dak Prescott's going to be, but like they only scored like a field goal while he was playing. I mean, it wasn't like he was lighting up on offense. They got some serious problems. The left tackle situation is kind of a disaster, a train wreck. They can't get Jason Peters ready fast enough. And, the guy's like almost 41 years old and, they're pretty much relying on him to save their season. They're crossing their fingers, hoping Cooper Rush can like at least keep them competent until Dak Prescott gets back. And now I guess they're talking like Dak might only be out a month or something. So he might return in time for that game against the Eagles on October 16th. And if that's the case, I mean, that's going to mean everything for the Cowboys. That's their season right there because, chances are, the way it looks right now, they could be like a couple games out of first place. And, if they want to stay in the race, they're going to have to win that game. So, yeah, they got a lot of issues.
I think their season might even come down before that because I think it's week 4 they play Washington. I got to get my number. Yeah, it is week 4. So that could be it because Washington could theoretically jump them, especially after the way they came back on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean, like every team in the NFC East is 1-0 right now, already leads the Cowboys by a game. And, you mentioned they got the game against Washington. They got the game against the Eagles. That's 2 NFC East games like in the early part of the season. So, those games are going to be critical. And, if they drop both of those, they're already, as of right now, they're already behind the 8 ball, but, even more so if they drop both of those games. So, they're going to have some issues. They gotta turn it around. They gotta turn it around quickly, and they gotta find a way to do it. I mean, they don't have Michael Gallup. Amari Cooper's already gone. Cedric Wilson's gone. You can't. CeeDee Lamb's pretty much the only receiver they trust right now, and can't give him the ball like 50 times if the other team knows it's coming and stuff. So they got some issues.
Well, it's funny how you say you can't give a guy a ball 50 times because the Eagles certainly tried to do that on Sunday with A.J. Brown. Overall, though, what were your impressions on what Brown was able to do against Detroit?
Brown's amazing. Like, all these years that he's been in Tennessee, you don't really get a chance to see him up close, the way we have over the summer and, in the first game and everything. And he's everything like the Eagles expected him. I mean, the guy can like get open in so many ways. It was kind of interesting. Yesterday, Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator, was describing Justin Jefferson, and it's the same thing, with AJ Brown. He said he's a guy who can, beat you deep. He can beat you over the middle. He can take a slant and run, and that's exactly what we've seen from AJ Brown. And the Eagles desperately needed a guy like that. I mean, yes, they could have drafted Justin Jefferson and not have to worry about it, but that's another story. The fact that, they have a guy like that, I mean, it opens up for everybody else. Now we just got to see everybody else take advantage of that, which we did not against the Lions. So, I would assume that, the Vikings are obviously dissecting this video and stuff like that, and they'll try to like stop AJ Brown in it. And if they do, then a guy like DeVonta Smith, who didn't have any catches against the lines is going to have to produce. Dallas Goedert, got a few balls here and there. He's going to have to be more of a factor, and maybe even Quez Watkins, who didn't get any, didn't have any catches either. So, they have a guy, like the Vikings do with Justin Jefferson. Now they got to find a way to work everybody else into the offense.
Nick Sirianni mentioned you guys Monday, and Shane Steichen doubled down on Tuesday about DeVonta Smith. He has to get the football, and they felt responsible why he didn't. But it just doesn't seem like as big of a deal in that locker room as it does, say, on Twitter, per se.
No, it does. I mean, when you score 38 points, well, technically 31 on offense, I mean, it's a pretty good day. And if, they were able to do it just by going to A.J. Brown and letting Jalen Hurts run, I mean, that's another factor the Vikings have to account for, the running game with both Hurts and Miles Sanders. So however you get it done is fine. But, at some point, you got to get production from those other guys too. I mean, I don't think it's the panic mode situation that you see on Twitter with the other guys and everything like that. But, DeVonta Smith had 916 yards receiving last year. He's pretty good, and the Eagles know that, and so does everybody else. So, it's just a question of, those guys working their way in and getting open and getting the ball. And I'm sure that'll happen more so, in this game against the Vikings and everything going forward as well.
When the Eagles play, how can I word this best? When Justin Jefferson, are they going to let him kind of get his and try to stop Thielen and guys like KJ Osborne, or how do you think they're going to approach that?
I would think they would try to at least have, two guys watching Justin Jefferson, whether it's, a cornerback, Darius Slay traveling with him, and then maybe a safety, keeping an eye on him as well. I don't think they want – I mean, I think they want to see if the other guys can beat him. I mean, I get the feeling their strategy is going to be like, let's try to take Justin Jefferson away and let's, make somebody else beat you. Because they do have another good cornerback in James Bradbury. I mean, we saw him get a pick six against the Lions and everything. So, it's not like a situation where, like maybe last year or the year before where you had a huge drop-off after Darius Slay. I mean, I think if they put James Bradbury on, another Vikings receiver, I think he would do a decent job and everything. And now they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They have some adjustments they can make. They could try to take Justin Jefferson away and take their chances on anybody else beating them. I think that would be more of the strategy that they would use in this case.
What was the biggest concern you had with the defense Sunday?
The run defense. I mean, it was pretty bad, and the Vikings have a pretty good running back too, and Dalvin Cook and everything like that. So, they're going to have to get better because it wasn't a good performance in any shape. A lot of people mentioned the Jordan Davis factor when he was on the field. The Lions averaged maybe like 2.9 yards per carry. When he wasn't on the field, they were averaging 10 yards per carry. So that's obviously a huge concern. I was kind of shocked by the fact that Javon Hargrave didn't play very well. Here's a guy coming off of a Pro Bowl season, and he just seemed like a step slow and everything. I know he had the toe injury for most of training camp, and maybe that's still affecting him. But it was something. I mean, Fletcher Cox wasn't that great either. And, I didn't see much from, the defensive ends either. So, that's got to get better. I mean, if they have the same kind of performance against the Vikings, I mean, Dalvin Cook's going to run all over them, and that's going to open things up in the passing game. And we already know how good the Vikings passing game is going to be. So, it could be just as bad as it was against Detroit, and Vikings are a much better team.
It's funny, too, you mentioned Jordan Davis, and I think he played, 23 snaps? But do you feel he's out of shape? Do you feel that's why they don't play him as much, or shouldn't that matter?
I don't think he's out of shape. I mean, the guy's, 6'6", 336 pounds. He he was never hurt during the preseason. So, he got he didn't like, it wasn't a case like maybe with Hargrave where he missed like 3 weeks and everything and maybe fell out of shape, but I don't see that as being the case with Jordan Davis. I just think they wanted to ease him in, rookie first game. And, I think especially in the second half, once they get the 17-point lead, I think they figured the Lions would pass because obviously if you're behind by 17, you're going to try to, throw your way back in the game. And the Lions, for the most part, kept with the running game, which I think caught the Eagles off guard a little bit. So maybe that's why Jordan Davis didn't play all that much as much in the second half, especially. You know, I would think like if they have a lead against, let's say, the Vikings in the second half, and I'm sorry, I would think if the Vikings are still running the ball in the second half, if it's a close game or the Vikings are leading or something like that, then obviously they would be running the ball more. And then you'd probably see Jordan Davis more. I just think it was a situation where in the second half, they expected the Lions to pass their way back into the game because they were down by 17 points on two different occasions. And they pretty much stayed pretty balanced. And I think that caught them off guard. And it's also why Jordan Davis might not have been in the game as much as he should have been, but he still should have been in the game. I mean, he's your first round pick. And if you tout him as a 3-down defensive tackle, then, play him as a 3-down defensive tackle.
Another player who I think he only played 3 snaps on defense anyway, and that was Jakob Dean. And the Eagles had 16 missed tackles on Sunday. So do you think maybe he's the solution for that?
I think he would help. Obviously Kaiser White and TJ Edwards are the two main linebackers, and they rarely ever, I didn't see them at all in a base defense with 3 linebackers the other day. So, that's kind of the situation. They only use 2 linebackers, and right now TJ Edwards and Kaiser White are the main guys, and they did a pretty good job. I mean, maybe a missed tackle from them here and there. Kaiser White, did tip the ball that was intercepted by Bradbury and everything. So, it might be tough for Jakob Dean to get, regular playing time, but he should definitely get more than 3 snaps, especially if they're having tackling issues. I mean, that's what the guy was known for at Georgia. We've seen it even in the preseason games. He's been often right up, or if not the leading tackler in those games. I mean, obviously the circumstances are different because you're playing against second stringers and stuff like that. But still, I mean, this is what they drafted the guy for. They thought they were getting a steal in the 3rd round by a guy who probably should have gone in the 1st round or at least early 2nd round. So, throw him out there. Let's see what he can do. If he's, if they're having tackling issues, he's a pretty good tackler and stuff like that. So I would like to think that as the season goes along, he'd get more and more playing time. I mean, I was kind of surprised, probably like everybody else, that he only got the 3 snaps on defense, but I don't see him getting more than TJ Edwards or Kaiser White, but he should get more than 3, definitely.
One thing I've noticed over Eagles fans, especially over the last 6-7 years, is they're outside the quarterback, the most polarizing figure on this franchise is the defensive coordinator. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on Jonathan Gannon.
Well, my thoughts are this, he has a system, and we saw that last year. He wanted to play what people call the overhang defense, where you can have, 5 defensive linemen. In order to do that, you need a really good rush linebacker. And last year, that rush linebacker was Jannard Avery, and he had 1 sack in 12 games. So with Gannon, you're like, okay, well, he's got a decent system, but he just doesn't have the players. So the Eagles went out and got the players. I mean, they got Kaiser White, they got Hassan Reddick. I mean, they gave him $45 million for 3 years. They got Bradbury in the back end. They got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the back end. So, now you're saying, okay, well, if your system's so good and you got the players, what happened? And, maybe it's the first game and everything like that. But, this is Gannon's system. It's like an amoeba type thing where you adjust to whatever the offense is doing, and you have the players that can adjust, versatile type of guys who can play multiple positions. I mean, Reddick, for example, can drop back and, cover, and he could also rush the passer. And, guys on the defensive line can play both tackle and end, and, safeties can play slot corner and everything like that. So, it's pretty much on Jonathan Gannon to produce because, this is his defense. They got him the players that he requires for a system. So now it's on Gannon to make it work. And that's what we're going to see this year. If he can't make it work, I think they got to go in a different direction. If he can, he's probably going to become a head coach next year. So they're probably going to go in a different direction anyway. So, this is a big year, especially for Jonathan Gannon. I mean, this could make or break his career. So, they got him the players. He's got no excuses. They gotta show something, definitely more than what they showed against the Lions. So yeah, I kind of agree with Eagles fans like who are down on Jonathan Gannon. I mean, he's got to turn it around and he's got to do it pretty quickly because the Vikings can exploit a lot of weaknesses.
Our old friend Carson Wentz can too. So this was weird Sunday. I watched the game when I was watching the Eagles game, but then I rewatched it yesterday, and I was tracking some of Wentz's throws. I did not realize this. He was 4 for 11 on any throw outside of 5 yards. Yet for some reason, I still thought he had a good game. From what you saw on the outside, how do you feel Wentz performed this week?
Well, he threw the 2 interceptions, right?
Yeah.
On back to back.
Yeah, the one throw was I guess he was trying to throw across his body, and Trayvon Walker just put his hands up and he got it. So that was one of the weird ones. But overall, it just seemed like it was a typical Carson Wentz performance.
Yeah, and the thing with Carson Wentz is, he can make some of the prettiest throws you'll ever see, and obviously to lead them back the way he did, I mean, obviously shows that he can. But he also makes some throws that you just you're shaking your head like, what in the hell is he doing? And that's kind of always been the problem with Carson Wentz. I mean, I think that's a large reason why Indianapolis moved on from him last year. They just never knew what they were getting from him from one week to the next. I mean, the last 2 games last season, all they had to do was win one of them, and the last one, especially against Jacksonville, which had only won 2 games coming into that point. They were 2-14. You beat Jacksonville, they're already done for the season. Then you get into the playoffs and stuff, and he totally laid an egg. And I think that's what kind of freaks out. I know it did the Eagles that last season, obviously, because he was just so awful. But you just never know from one week to the next, even one game to the next, or even one play to the next, what you're getting from him. If he puts it all together, throws a beautiful ball, everything's great. But then the next series, he could just try to play hero ball basically. And that was kind of his problem with the Eagles towards the end too. If things were breaking down, he tried to escape the pocket, and he's not Jalen Hurts. I mean, not after the knee injury and everything, and he can't do it every time. And I mean, it was good that he was able to get a win and stuff like that, but I think you're also going to see games where he's just awful, and Washington gets frustrated with him, and it's the same old story with Carson Wentz. You just don't know what you're getting from week to week with him.
I actually thought this was kind of funny. So I think it was Jonathan Allen was on the Fan in DC, and they asked him about stuff with Carson Wentz, and he said, well, that whole locker room cancer thing is high school drama. And I'm like, hold on a second, buddy. It's been 1 week. I don't understand. I feel like Washington is doing the exact opposite of Indianapolis and going to great lengths to make sure everything is sunshine and roses for this guy.
Yeah. I think it was in the summer, Montez Sweat, he was chasing after Wentz in a drill and everything, and Wentz was still holding on to the ball, and he's yelling at him, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like something that, isn't going to end well. I mean, Carson Wentz is a decent quarterback, but I think he just tries to do too much sometimes. He gets in these situations where he feels like he has to be the one to save everything. And I think sometimes he makes it worse instead of just taking the L. And I'll even draw a comparison to Jalen Hurts from yesterday. I think we saw at least 3 times where Hurts was really under pressure and he was running for his life. He was running towards the sideline and it seemed like he was going to get sacked. And he just like shoveled the ball out of bounds, got to the line of scrimmage. So you can't call it intentional grounding. And yeah, it affected his completion percentage and everything like that. But he didn't take the sack. He didn't lose yards. It was just an incomplete pass and he lived to play another play. And I don't think Wentz does that. I think like if it were Wentz and he was being chased like that, he'd try to like turn again and try to get past the defender, and the defender would tackle him and he'd lose 7 or 8 yards, and Washington would be in, a second and long or third and long situation like that. And, sometimes you just got to throw the ball away. You got to get rid of it. You can't hold on to it like that. And, another thing I remember, like when he was with the Eagles, like Jason Peters used to complain all the time, like he holds on to the ball too long. You can't hold your block that long if you're an offensive lineman. So, that's another factor and everything. I think we've seen that from Wentz before. And I think, that's kind of the same situation in Washington. And at some point it's not going to go well.
With the Cowboys situation now, I feel like there's an opportunity for that Commanders team to not exactly steal the division here, but make the playoffs. I think they're talented enough to do that. Do you see a possibility where they could win 9-10 games now because Dallas is what it is?
Well, I mean, it's possible now because you going into the season, you figured Dallas would be a lot better than, what's going on now, especially with Dak being out. So yeah, maybe Washington get to like 8 or 9 wins and everything, but they still have a lot of issues and everything like that. So I'm not seeing like 11 or 12 games or winning the division. I just don't see that kind of I just don't see that kind of potential there. I mean, I still think they have some issues on offense. I mean, McLaurin's a great receiver and everything like that, but I don't think they have much else to support him and everything. So it could be kind of interesting to see, but maybe 8 or 9 wins. I think that's pretty much their ceiling, and that's with Wentz having a good year. So
So I think the Giants might, not saying they're going to be anything, but week 1 overreaction. I actually think they may be better than what I thought they were going to be, at least from their upset win over the Titans. Now they got Carolina this week. It's a very winnable game. I'm not saying that they're going to be a threat in the division, but on the outskirts, it does look like they may not be that 4 or 5 win team we all thought.
All right, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was an impressive win. It was a great win. Brian Daboll's first game and everything like that, and they pulled it out at the end. I mean, yeah, Tennessee missed a field goal that would have won the game. But yeah, it was great. They're going to be better. I mean, it's going to take some time and stuff, but they have to make a decision at quarterback with Daniel Jones. I mean, Saquon Barkley had a great game. I mean, it was like, from his rookie season before all the injuries and everything like that. But, is that sustainable? I don't know. What do they have at receiver? I mean, it seems like it's not the greatest situation. You got Daniel Jones at quarterback. The defense is still kind of suspect, based on, there isn't a whole lot there. I mean, they're building the system. They're going to get there eventually. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't like overreact from like, the first game and stuff. Week 1, a lot of crazy things kind of happened, and that game was definitely one of them. I think the Giants will be they'll be all right. They'll be presentable and stuff. They're not going to be the train wreck that they've been the last 4 or 5 years, but they're definitely headed in the right direction. And I guess, if you're an NFC East fan, that's good to see, because you always like to see like a rivalry between the Eagles and the Giants and Cowboys and stuff like that. So it seems like they're headed in the right direction. I think it's going to take some time. I still think this is going to be kind of a transition season for them. I mean, they have decisions to make on Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's in the last year of his contract too. So, you could be seeing like brand new skill players there next year and everything. So we'll see.
How much do you pay attention to the QBR stuff? Because I thought this was hilarious with Jones. Daniel Jones had the highest completion percentage of his career. He looked like he played pretty well, and yet when you look at ESPN's QBR, he was dead last. Like, do you pay attention to any of that stuff, or is it? I don't know. To me, it feels like you're just going to give yourself a headache if you look at the PFF and the ESPN data.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. I mean, you can like finagle the stats pretty much any way you want to make it, to support your case and everything like that. But a lot of times it's the eye test. I mean, that was the thing with like Carson Wentz last year. Everyone said, well, his season wasn't that bad. He threw 27 touchdowns, only had 7 interceptions, and but I mean, you can tell from just watching the games last year that they were out of sync a lot of times. He was missing open receivers and stuff like that. I mean, so that's kind of what you got to go with. You got to go with the eye test a lot. And I think a lot of teams are, or at least general managers and stuff, like, you got to look beyond the numbers. You got to see what you're seeing, the way the players kind of interact with each other and everything like that. I mean, if a guy isn't like uniting the locker room or leading in the right way, I mean, that's a red flag. I mean, people rave about Jalen Hurts, for example, as a leader, as a guy who connects with people and everything like that. And I think that buttresses his stats, which obviously, if you go by those things, metrics and stuff, they're not the greatest, especially, in his passing, 61.3% completion percentage last year, like an 87 or something, passer rating and all that. So like the stats would say that he's not the greatest quarterback, but yet, he can run. The teammates like him. They like playing for him. They like playing with him. I mean, I think that's a major reason why Jason Kelce came back. He could have easily retired if he didn't think, they had a guy quarterback who could get the job done. I mean, like, why should I come back if we're going to be like 6-11 or 7-10 and we don't have a quarterback in place? I mean, he came back because he felt like they did. So, those are more of the tangible things that I look at, and I think a lot of teams look at is, can they win with this quarterback? Does the locker room like him? Does he make the kind of connection and stuff? So I think that's kind of bigger in some ways than what the stats tell you.
Finally, Martin, before I let you go here, Nick Sirianni, whether he believes in Jalen Hurts or not, it does seem like, though, he feels, at least him and Shane Steichen, not saying they go out of their way to defend Jalen Hurts, but it does feel like they have their guy and they're going to use their guy to his strengths. They don't seem to care what this guy thinks or that guy thinks, and ultimately Howie Roseman's going to make the decision here. But I think if push came to shove, it seems like Nick Sirianni is more than okay if Jalen Hurts is his quarterback.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the game against the Lions shows like just why they like him so much. I mean, a lot of people criticize Jalen Hurts for not standing in the pocket, like looking for his, second and third read if the first guy isn't open and stuff. But Hurts just takes off and runs, and he gets like 10 to 15 yards. Now you have to say to yourself, like, if he's not standing in the pocket waiting for a second or third read, and he's just like getting his 10 or 15 yards, Jalen Hurts running, is that better than dumping off to a running back, his check down or whatever, and getting like 3 or 4 yards, or maybe stop at the line of scrimmage? Well, obviously the better alternative is him getting 10 to 15 yards and keeping the chains moving. I mean, we saw that like even in the first quarter, like the Eagles had I think it was like a 3rd and 15 on their first series, and he ran the ball and got 16 yards, got a first down. I mean, that's better than a dump off to a running back and, gets maybe 5 yards and it's 4th and 10 and you're punting the ball. I mean, he kept that drive alive. And that's one of the things with Jalen Hurts that makes him different from other quarterbacks. And that's what the Eagles like about him, is that, he can get that first down, whether it's with his arm or his legs. And, I think people have to kind of like just come to that conclusion that Jalen Hurts is a different quarterback. He can get the job done. It's just different from what, people are expecting. I mean, he's not afraid to just take off and run, and that's what the Eagles need sometimes. And, that's kind of what he gives them. And I think that's why they like him so much. And that's why they're trying to tailor, the offense to his strengths. And then the pass he threw to AJ Brown, like that 54-yard down pass down the sideline. I mean, that was a perfect pass. Like, he made a lot of really good passes. Like, a lot of people have questioned his accuracy and everything like that, but he was pretty much right on target yesterday, pretty much all day. I didn't see too many throws that weren't like on point, basically. So, the Eagles like what they have with Hurts, and that's why they're trying to tailor the offense to him, because if he's their quarterback, they got to make it work.
Martin, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to have to get you on again. We'll talk some more NFC East. Great conversation today, my friend.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
It sounds great. I'll see you Monday.
All right.